Hi guys, welcome back to the RQ Studio. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to run some SQL scripts for cleaning data and transforming data. So let's dive right in. So I've uploaded some dummy data set into the dummy DB again. This time our table is named the online retail on clean data set, and it's a subset of the data I used in part 2 of this series of SQL 0 to Hero. So I'm just going to call out the database and it will preview the data. Right. So with the data that we have, the first SQL function I'd like us to look at that comes in handy, especially when you're cleaning data and performing some data exploration, is the learn function. So I'm just going to write some notes for each query as headings. So every text you see in green that starts with 2 hyphens serves as a note. It's a good practice to always add notes to your queries to make them clean and easily readable and auditable. So len, and the len function is used to count the number of characters in a column. So a len function is also used in Microsoft Excel, and I'm going to show you how it's used here. So let's count the country column. And instead of previewing everything, I'm just going to preview the country column. Run this script. Great. Now I want another column beside it that shows the count of characters that exist within this column. So I'm going to add comma, len, put country again. And I'll name this column count of country. Run. Okay. So as you can see, there are 14 characters for the United Kingdom, 6 for France, 5 for Ghana, 7 for Nigeria. So this function comes in handy when you want to ensure that each and every single character, there's no spaces that exist within that column, right? So let's say if there were some spaces before or after the text, you would see more than 14 characters for United Kingdom. And this allows you to focus on that and then make use of the next SQL query, which is trim. So the trim function removes spaces, and this is how it works. So I'm just going to perform a lot of copy and paste because we'll be making use of the same script and just updating and editing it, right? So imagine we still have the country column and it has spaces in it, and I want a new column without spaces. So bear in mind, with SQL, if your data sits in a database and let's say you don't want to touch the data from source, but then you just want to run your scripts for perhaps some ad hoc analysis and such, this allows you to do that without editing the data that actually sits in the database. It creates temporal tables that only exist when the query is run. When these queries are not run, the transformations you are performing would not show in the actual data. So that's how it works. So with trim, I'm going to put the country in the brackets and name this column as trimmed country. Execute. Great. And so ideally, the trimmed country column would not have any spaces. However, sometimes the software that you use may automatically take out spaces. So if you're lucky like me, you wouldn't have to make use of the trim function. So let's go to our next function, which is upper and lower. So the upper and lower function is used to standardize text within a column. So notice, I'm sure you have noticed that the country column has both small letters and capital letters within it. So let's say you want to ensure that everything in the column has capital letters. This is how you go about it. Select all. Country. Upper country. Let's name this as capital. Run. And there you have it. Each and every single character within the country column, or each and every single word has been capitalized. So that's how it works. And the opposite is where you make use of the lower function, and it gives you everything or transform everything to lower small letters. So that's how the upper and the lower function works. Now let's perform some aggregations. So looking at the data that we have, right? Let me just preview everything. We have a quantity column and a unit price column, but we don't have a total sale column, right? So if you want to perform some aggregation such as sum, multiplication, addition, you can do that with SQL, and I'm going to show you how to make use of some of those, perform some of those aggregations. So let's multiply the unit price by the quantity column to get a total sale column. And similarly, I'm going to sum up those two columns. So let's do that. So building on this script, I'm going to add a comma after the all, and then write quantity asterisk unit price. Now in this instance, asterisk stands for multiplication. So what I'm saying is multiply the quantity column by the unit price column, and let the column name be seen as total sale. When you're naming a column, it's best not to use spaces. It's best to use the underscore. But if you want space to be in between a compound name, you have to put it in inverted commas. Yeah. So I'm going to run this. And you can see that to the far right hand side, we have a total sale column. And you can perform your calculation. You realize that when you multiply the unit price by the quantity, you get the values in the total sale column. So that's one aggregation. Let's say I wanted a sum of that. I'll just take this, copy, paste, and change the syntax from asterisk to a plus, and name this column sum. Take out the comma at the end because we ended there. Execute. And when you scroll to the right, realize that the same two columns have been summed up to give you what we have in the sum column, right? So these are ways that you can perform aggregations in SQL. You can also look for greater than or less than. Let me just try that and let's see. So let's say you want to filter out the data where the quantity is less than 10. So select all from, and that falls under conditional statements. So select all from this, select all columns from the table where quantity less than 10. Run the script. And we have 48 rows where the quantity is less than 10. And so these are some of the aggregations that you can perform in SQL. The next thing we're going to look at is the replace function. And the replace function works by, well, it is used to find a specific text within a column, and it replaces that text with another text, right? So let's say in the description column, Or let's say in the invoice date column, let me use the invoice date column. I want to replace the hyphen that separates the years from the months from the dates with a backslash. Let me show you how I'll go about it. So select from, let's see, select invoice date, comma, replace. So in the brackets, you have to state the column you want to work on and what exactly in the column you want to replace. You put that in inverted commas. In this instance, I want to replace the backslash, the hyphen with a backslash. So I'll put both of them in inverted commas, and I'm going to name this column new date. Run this, and we can see from a glance that now wherever you see a hyphen, it's replaced with a backslash, and that's how it works. You can use that on each and every single column within the database. So let's say looking at the stock code, I'm just going to change this and make use of the stock code column. Let's say when you look at the table, the first two rows have some letters there in the stock code columns, letter A. So I want to replace the letter A with letter B or letter Z. Let's replace it with letter Z as new stock code. So emphasizing on just those two rows, you can see that I've replaced letter A with letter Z, and that's what the replace function does. Now bear in mind, again, this does not change the original data that sits in the database. It only works when these queries are run. Yeah, and from that you can create views and choose to store those views as permanent, but then we'll be looking at views in my next video, so watch out for that. However, the next script or SQL script I want us to look at is the case function. So case or case when makes use of conditional logic. It works as an if statement, and if you have made use of if statements in Excel, you realize that if statements always have a condition. So this allows you to create a new column, a categorical column based on another column and based on conditions that you want to apply. So let's look at our data, and let's say looking at the quantity column, we want to categorize this data according to customers. We want to categorize them as either a rich customer, an average customer, or a poor customer based on the quantities that they buy. So I want to write in a SQL that where a customer buys more than, where the quantity column is more than 30, then I want to see rich customer in the column. Where the quantity is greater than or equal to 20, I want to see average customer, and then finally, if it is less than that, I want to see poor customer, right? So greater than or equal to 30, greater than or equal to 20, and then if you don't fall in those two categories, poor customer. So let's write that script. So select from online retail, select all, comma, and I'm going to add that column in, that is our case column. So case when quantity is greater than or equal to 30, then rich customer when quantity is greater than or equal to 20, then average customer, else. So if you don't fall in these two categories, any other customer that buys a quantity that is not in these two categories and is less than that, I'm going to classify you as a poor customer. And then end this logic. And I want to name this as customer category. So it's customer category. So this is how the case when script is written. So let's run it and see. When you look to our right hand side, a new column has been added called customer category. That's what we just created. And you can see where the quantity is 6, poor customer. I scroll down, you can see some average customers, and they have quantities of above 20. And a rich customer that has quantity of 48 and such. That's how the case query works. And it really comes in handy, especially when you want to group the data. It really helps with grouping data. So it's something to have at the back of your mind or have in your toolbox. The next thing I want us to look at is distinct. Now, how does distinct work? Now, distinct is a query that is used to preview only unique or distinct values within a column. So let's say we want to look at the country column. And note that when we run the script to view just country, because of the series of transactions, there are a lot of duplicates. But let's say we just want to see the total number of countries that exist in that column, right? I'm going to put the distinct function there, distinct. And name it as unique countries. And the result shows us 5 rows. So we have France, Ghana, Nigeria, United Kingdom, and United Kingdom in small letters. Because both of them, because they are not both in standardized, that's how come they appear as unique values. So this is what the distinct script does, and it really helps, especially when you want to summarize data. Let's say you want to see the total sum of quantities for each country. You would make use of a combination of scripts, the group by function and the distinct function. Let's see if I can demonstrate that. So country, comma, count of quantity as QTY count, group by distinct country, or group by country. Let's run this. And we have managed to summarize the data, summarize the count of quantity for each country. And this is a combination of the distinct function and the group by function. You can even throw in the order by function if we are concerned with the order. Perhaps we want to order by the count and descend in order from highest to lowest. We can do that. And that's how the distinct function also works. So these are a few queries that we use or can be used in cleaning and transforming data. Also, if you want to look at missing values within a column, we have the is now function, and that is the next thing I'd like to look at. We have what we call is now, and we also have is not now. And as the name implies, we will be including a condition that allows us to see columns where we will be including a condition that allows us to see columns that includes missing values or columns that do not have missing values. So select all from online where description column is null. That's how to write it. So you put the is null as a condition or as part of the condition. So in executing this, the results we see are all the columns or all the records that have the description as null. And if we want to see vice versa, we just put is not null there. And we have 67 rows. So that's how the is not null function works. And finally, if you want to replace these null values with an actual value in order for you to easily summarize your data or perform some further analysis, you make use of what we call COALESCE. Now this function helps to replace null values in a specific column. So let's see how it works. So you state the column you want to that has missing values and what you want to see in place of the missing values. So let's say I want to see the word empty. Let me run the script. And from the results, what we see is all the columns in the register, including a new column. And wherever you see null, you see the word empty. In fact, let me just show you the description column. You don't need to see every column. Great. So as you can see, wherever there's null, the word empty is there. And if not, every other thing is represented in that column. So that's how the COALESCE function works. So these are a few queries that we can use in data cleaning and transformation, and they really come in handy when you're exploring and cleaning and transforming data, in addition to knowing how to query data. In my next video, we are going to be looking at advanced SQL functions such as views, such as CTEs, and Windows functions. So stay tuned. Thanks guys for watching, and peace out.